Inside the British Museum, surrounded by the gold of pharaohs and emperors, there is a display case that holds an ordinary claw hammer, the kind you'd buy at any hardware store. It is one of the most famous hammers on Earth, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why it earned a place among the treasures of human history. Today, the 5 luckiest metal detector finds ever made. 5 ordinary people, a chef, an unemployed man, a father and son, 2 friends with a roomer, and a retired gardener who switched on a cheap machine and pulled millions out of ordinary fields. We've ranked them by pure, outrageous luck. And number 1 is the luckiest find in the history of the hobby, because the man who made it wasn't looking for treasure at all. He was looking for that hammer. Quick rules. Everything on this list was found with a hobby metal detector, the kind anyone can buy. And everything here went through Britain's treasure system, which matters, because the law is the quiet hero of these stories. In the UK, if your find qualifies as treasure, museums pay you its full market value, and you split the money 50-50 with the landowner. No smuggling, no black market. You find it, you report it, and the government writes you a check. Remember that rule? It's about to make several ordinary people rich, and one legal loophole is going to cause a scandal. Let's swing. Number 5. Somerset, England, 2010. Dave Crisp was a hospital chef who spent his days off swinging a detector over the fields near the town of Frome. That spring, he got a strange, deep signal. Most people would have grabbed a shovel and torn into it. Crisp dug just far enough to realize what he was looking at, the rim of an enormous buried pot. And then he did the hardest thing a treasure hunter can do. He stopped. He filled the hole back in, and he called the archaeologists. When they excavated it properly, that single ceramic pot held 52,503 Roman coins, a third of a ton of ancient money, buried around the year 290, in one container, in one hole, under one English field. It remains one of the largest coin hoards ever found in Britain. Because Crisp reported it by the book, the Treasure Valuation Committee priced it at £320,000, over $500,000, split between him and the landowner, a hospital chef, a week's patience, and the discipline not to dig. That discipline is why archaeologists could read the pot layer by layer, like a 2,000-year-old bank statement. And if one pot of coins sounds lucky, number 4 found the treasure of a lost English kingdom after 18 years of finding almost nothing. Number 4. Staffordshire, England, 2009. Terry Herbert was unemployed, and he had been metal detecting for 18 years. 18 years of bottle caps, shotgun shells, and scrap. In July 2009, he asked a farmer named Fred Johnson for permission to walk one of his fields near the village of Hammerwich. Johnson said yes. Within days, Herbert's detector was screaming. What came out of that soil over the following weeks was not a pot of coins. It was war treasure. Nearly 4,600 pieces of worked gold and silver. Sword fittings, helmet fragments, crosses, garnets set in gold like frozen blood. 11 pounds of gold. The largest hoard of Anglo-Saxon gold ever discovered, anywhere. 1,400 years old, and probably the spoils of a battlefield, stripped from the weapons of a defeated army and buried by a kingdom that no longer exists. The valuation came back, £3.285 million. Herbert's 50% share made the unemployed detectorist a millionaire overnight. Fred Johnson got the same for saying yes to a knock on his door. And then the money did what money does. The two men, by every press account, fell out. Over the split, over the credit, over all of it. The gold of a dead kingdom sits in museums now, admired by millions. The friendship it was buried under didn't survive the year. Number 3 is worth even more. And it triggered a national scandal because of 3 words in a law: gold and silver. Number 3, Cumbria, England, 2010. A father and son, to this day they've never given their names, had been detecting for years around the village of Crosby Garrett, mostly finding nothing. In May 2010, in an unremarkable sheep pasture, they dug up 67 crumpled fragments of bronze. Pieced together, those fragments became one of the most beautiful objects Roman Britain ever left behind. A cavalry parade helmet, crowned with a winged griffin, its face mask a serene, perfect bronze youth. Roman cavalrymen wore helmets like this not for battle but for tournament displays, sport, spectacle, showing off. Only 3 with face masks have ever been found in Britain. Now, remember the rule: treasure means gold and silver. This helmet was bronze. Legally, it wasn't treasure at all. which meant the finders didn't have to sell it to a museum. They could sell it to anyone. On October 7, 2010, at Christie's in London, a regional museum backed by public donations raised its paddle again and again and lost. The helmet sold for £2.3 million, roughly $3.6 million, to an anonymous private buyer in about 6 minutes. A father and son from Cumbria split a fortune with the landowner entirely legally, and one of Britain's great Roman artifacts vanished into a private collection. The law was changed by outrage in the papers, but not in time. Luck, it turns out, doesn't wait for legislation. Number 2 makes everything so far look impatient. It took 30 years of searching one island for a treasure someone glimpsed once in the dirt. Number 2. The island of Jersey, 2012. Sometime in the early 1980s, a woman mentioned something odd to 2 local detectorists, Reg Mead and Richard Miles. Years before, in a freshly ploughed field, she'd seen what looked like tarnished silver buttons scattered in the soil. She couldn't remember exactly where. Most people would have shrugged. Mead and Miles started searching. The field could only be swept for a few days each year, after harvest and before planting. So that's what they did, a few days a year, for roughly 30 years. In February 2012, they found 60 silver coins. 4 months later, their detectors hit something enormous. Archaeologists lifted it out as a single fused block, 3/4 of a ton. Roughly 70,000 Celtic silver coins, minted by a tribe called the Coriosolitai, plus 11 twisted gold neck rings, buried around the time Julius Caesar's legions were burning their way through Gaul. Someone's national treasury, ferried to an island and hidden from Rome, and never retrieved. It is the largest Celtic coin hoard ever found, and it holds the Guinness World Record for Iron Age hoards. Jersey's Heritage Trust acquired it for £4.25 million. 30 years of showing up for a rumour, split 3 ways with a landowner. Reg Mead was in his 70s when the check came. Patience, it turns out, compounds better than any bank account. But even 30 years of searching isn't the luckiest thing on this list, because the man at number 1 wasn't searching for treasure at all. Number 1. Suffolk, England. November 16, 1992. A tenant farmer named Peter Watling was working a field near the village of Hoxne when he lost his hammer. An ordinary claw hammer, somewhere in acres of ploughed soil. So he called his friend Eric Laws, a retired gardener whose colleagues had given him a metal detector as a retirement present, and asked him to come sweep for it. Laws swept. The machine sang. And out of the Suffolk clay came silver spoons. Then gold jewellery. Then coins, and more coins, gleaming in the furrows like the field itself had decided to pay him for his time. Here's what makes Laws more than lucky. He stopped immediately. One day, that's all it took for the archaeologists to arrive and lift the whole deposit out in intact blocks. What they counted changed British history. Nearly 15,000 Roman coins and 200 objects of gold and silver. Bracelets, chains, and the famous silver pepper pots. Nearly 60 pounds of precious metal in all. The largest hoard of late Roman gold and silver ever found in Britain. It was buried in the early 400s as the Roman Empire was abandoning the island. Somebody's entire family fortune, hidden in a moment of collapse, waiting for an owner who never came back. If that sounds familiar, it should. It's Saddle Ridge, 16 centuries earlier. Panic buries gold, and gold outlives the panic. The Treasure Valuation Committee paid £1.75 million, well over $4 million in today's money. Eric Laws, who went out to find a hammer, split it with the friend who'd lost one. And the hammer? They found that too. Peter Watling donated it to the British Museum, where it sits today in the National Collection, a few steps from the gold it accidentally discovered. The luckiest swing in the history of metal detecting wasn't aimed at treasure. It was aimed at getting a friend his tools back. So that's the list. A chef who knew when to stop digging. An unemployed man in year 18. A father and son with 67 scraps of bronze. 2 friends who believed a rumour for 30 years. And a retired gardener doing a favour. Not one of them was a professional. Every machine on this list costs less than a used car. What separated them from everyone else was the oldest rule in gold country, the one we keep finding in every one of these stories. The ground is not empty. It's just patient. Next time, the biggest gold fraud in history, a mine in the jungle that Wall Street valued at $6 billion, pension funds bet on, and a nation celebrated. There was just one problem. There was never any gold in it at all. Subscribe, because that one is unbelievable.